We are Southeastern 16, and we are going to talk about Georgia Notre Dame, the quarterfinal matchup of the college football playoff. That will be at the Sugar Bowl down in New Orleans on January 1st. So, Bulldogs kicking off 2025 down in New Orleans. Jed May, he's with the UGAsports.com. He joins us. Jed, appreciate you coming on and talking some Georgia football. What's an exciting time on the verge of a college football playoff quarterfinal game?
Absolutely, and for me, it's first Sugar Bowl, so cool for me too. And yeah, it's a matchup with two powerful college football brands, obviously, in a historic game. So it's going to be cool.
So when it comes to Georgia, I mean, I think all the talking points start with what's the offense going to look like. No Carson Beck. He's out, successful surgery. Glad to hear that for him. Gunnar Stockton, we saw him in the SEC championship game. What do you think kind of have been the focal points for him over the last couple of weeks? You've had some time between the championship, between this quarterfinal game. What do you think has been the focal points for Gunnar Stockton the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think first thing is experience. You get a lot of reps with the number one offense against the number one defense. You take some of that time, especially when you have a bye and you don't know who you're going to play to self scout and figure out what Gunnar does well. So I think the offensive staff is going to do a great job of that. He obviously has a running element to his game that maybe Carson Beck doesn't have. So figuring out how to use that and just getting him more comfortable. I mean, he did a admirable job, I would say, filling in against Texas. He didn't light up the scoreboard by any means, but he didn't. He kind of did make a killer mistake, but it was okay with that interception in the fourth quarter. So just getting him today to realize, hey, you don't have to be Superman. You've got great, good offensive line in front of you, great receivers around you. Just don't make the critical mistake. Get the ball to the guys around you and play good defense. You got to play good defense and run the ball, no matter who your quarterback is. So Georgia does that. I think they'll be okay. But yeah, just getting Gunnar Stockton to realize it doesn't have to be Superman, and the staff is figuring out what he likes to do best.
Do you feel like the run game will be utilized more in a game like this against Notre Dame when you have Gunnar Stockton in at quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably going to be the goal. Obviously, it's a lot easier said than done against a team like Notre Dame, who's Kirby Smart has said it. They're built almost like an SEC team in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So that's the goal. I think the run game did look good against Texas in the second half. With Texas got a very good defense as well. So yeah, feed Trevor Etienne. They've got some injuries, which is kind of par for the course all year at running back. So figuring out ways to move the ball on the ground, which then sets up play action, which is can be a quarterback's best friend. So start with the run and then go from there. I think is what the offense is going to look like.
Riley Leonard, the quarterback for Notre Dame, dual threat guy. He can run himself. What are some things you feel like Georgia's defense can do? Georgia's seen other mobile quarterbacks, this season. How do you feel like Riley Leonard stacks up with those guys, and what do you feel like the Georgia defense can do to stop him?
Yeah, we actually just spoke with Micah Williams a little bit ago and said Leonard reminds him a little bit of Haynes King for Georgia Tech, who had a huge game against Georgia, had over 100 rushing yards. I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns, a couple passing touchdowns. So I think you've got to be really disciplined as a defense, because the thing about Notre Dame is it's not Riley Leonard's not the only facet of that rushing game. You got Jeremiah Love, you got other good backs as well. So either one can hurt you. So you've got to be disciplined, stay in your gaps, mind your keys, all that stuff. That sounds like coach speak, but is very important against an offense like that. And it's interesting that watching that Notre Dame Indiana game, it didn't seem like Leonard ran a whole lot, design runs anyway. So I think they might have been saving him a little bit, knowing he's going to be a key feature of that ground attack against Georgia, who has struggled at times defending running quarterbacks. So I think that's the big thing for the Georgia defense. Can you limit Riley Leonard's design run ability and make him sit in the pocket and beat you through the air?
We'll continue talking Georgia football after we tell you about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL to UFC. Head to BetOnline today. Don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. So Georgia defensively, we're just talking Just again, heading into this matchup against Riley Leonard, just as you look at kind of the matchup as a whole, the offense as a whole for Notre Dame against Georgia, who's been good defensively. That's Kirby Smart's side of the ball. Who do you feel like has the advantage when you look at Notre Dame offense, Georgia defense? What would you say?
I mean, I think, I just think Georgia's defense is probably deeper. They're healthier. They're probably about as healthy as they've been all year, especially along the defensive front. So, they've got, you can rotate guys in and out, keep them fresh, all that kind of stuff. But again, Notre Dame they have an offense that they have the type of offense that has given Georgia problems. Dual threat quarterback can extend plays, a powerful running back to complement that. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge because again, Georgia Tech moved the ball very well against Georgia for the majority of that game, in a game that, to be honest, Georgia Tech probably should have won. So um, they've got to figure out how to not give up. Same thing we were saying with Gunner Stockton. The more Notre Dame's able to establish that run early, then you open up the play action. You open up you take a sweep one way and you hit the tight end coming across the back over. There's so many different things they can do with that offense. That I think can kind of be hard to simulate. Ironically, if Carson Beck was healthy, um, it wouldn't have surprised me if Gunner Stockton was your scout team guy simulating Riley Leonard this week. Obviously, not going to have your starter down there now, but so it's going to be interesting to see. I think again, it's going to be both sides. I think is going to be about stopping the run on the defensive side of the ball.
How important was it, do you feel, for Georgia to have had the last couple of weeks off, to not have to play a first round game when they're in the situation they are, with having to make sure Gunner Stockton is prepared for this starting role? How important do you feel like that rest was? And you mentioned from a health standpoint as well.
Yeah, health is huge. First of all, I mean, for example, Trevor Etienne has had a nagging rib injury, cartilage injury, whatever's going on. That's one of those things that only heals with rest, and now you get some rest to heal it. Yeah, just and again, everybody at this point in the year's got nicks and bruises and whatever. Defensive line getting healthier. Smile Munden, linebacker's been battling a foot injury. He's healthier. It helps everybody. But I think the self scouting aspect of it, because if they lost that SEC championship and you're playing Tennessee or Ohio State or whoever in the first round, then it's like, okay, you don't really have time to. I mean, it's kind of like a bye week. You get 2 weeks, but you have to go straight into preparing for an opponent. Now you've got some time to look inwardly at yourself. Look at what Gunner Stockton does well. Figure out what he does well. Get him more reps against the number one defense. So I think it's huge. I think obviously you get the time aspect of it is one thing, but figuring out what Gunner Stockton does well in this context of this game is absolutely huge.
Again, Georgia and Notre Dame meeting up in the Sugar Bowl. Again, you mentioned at the beginning of this, a fascinating matchup. I mean, two historic programs, really, with these two. It's in the 12-team playoff, and Notre Dame, they've got a good win against Indiana a couple of weeks ago. They have a game under their belt in this. Georgia does not. Do you see that? And we talked about kind of the bonus of Georgia having time off, but do you feel like it could be an advantage for Notre Dame at all, having played now? And obviously they had injuries too, which is unfortunate for them, but they have played as late. Do you see that playing into it at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a momentum aspect to it. They did lose a defensive lineman. I forget his name, but one of their team captain's top defensive lineman, which is kind of why you want to buy, right? So you avoid injuries. So, um, but yeah, I mean, again, I think for Georgia, the momentum benefit for Notre Dame, like Georgia will trade that for getting healthier and figuring out things on offense. I think that's a trade Kirby Smart's going to make every time, because this is a team throughout the year has just been really banged up. It's running back, it's defensive line, it's linebacker at times. Offensive line has been banged up. And obviously now you've got quarterback on top of it all. So I think Kirby Smart would trade the 23-ish days to get healthy, um, against a potential momentum advantage for Notre Dame, which, that Indiana game by the time they play is going to be almost 2 weeks old. So it's a little bit of a reset for Notre Dame as well. So yeah, I think Kirby Smart's good with the trade.
And as far as just as you've talked with coaches and players and media availabilities, what do you just feel like the vibe is around the program right now? Obviously, it's hard losing your starting quarterback, but just what do you feel like the vibe is right now, getting ready to head into this quarterfinal matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a team that's rallying around Gunnar Stockton. It was defensive players today on Friday, and every guy was asked about Gunnar. There's more questions about Gunnar than the defense, it felt like, but they're like, hey, this is a guy who we believe in. They're the unit that he's been going against in practice, and they know he's gotten a great test in practice for 3 years now. So um, everybody believes in him. They know what he can do. They're from a defensive perspective anyway. They're not putting any extra pressure on themselves to say, okay, well, we've got to go pitch a shutout because Gunner's playing. They know that he can score points. I mean, against Texas, he scored, he ended up with, I think, 13 points maybe in regulation, moved the ball, just, bogged down the red zone a couple times, which happens. So I think the team believes in Gunner. They rallied. I mean, we saw it in the SEC championship. He gave the team a spark the second he stepped on the field. So I think it's a team that believes in Gunner, and they believe they can beat Notre Dame, Penn State, Boise State, Oregon, Ohio State, whoever. They can beat anybody with Gunner Stockton at quarterback, as they're thinking right now.
Jed May joining us talking Georgia football. Jed, where can folks find your work, and what all will you guys be have coming in the next few days ahead of this matchup?
Yeah, it's UGAsports.com, part of the Rivals Network. We've got film breakdowns and recruiting stuff and everything you could possibly want. So yeah, we're heading down to New Orleans on Sunday, and yeah, going to cover Grant. I've never covered a Sugar Bowl, so excited to go down there, see the Superdome. Supposedly the press box is like on Mars, looking down at the field. So got a new pair of binoculars for Christmas, so I'm going to put those to good use. And yeah, man, it's a cool, going to the Sugar Bowl anyway, but seeing it's Georgia versus Notre Dame. They played in the Sugar Bowl after the 80s season for Georgia National Championship. Notre Dame is one of those iconic brands of college football. They'll bring a great crowd. Georgia will bring a great crowd. It's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to it. And that's the kind of the capper of the quarterfinal round, the last game. So it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, Jed, appreciate your time today. Safe travels down there. Enjoy that game, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Absolutely, man. Anytime.
Jed May, UGAsports.com. We'll have you covered here on Southeastern 16 with all of the SEC teams, bowl games, playoff games. So subscribe, like this video, share it with your friends. We are Southeastern 16, presented to you by BetOnline.